Hi, there's Life Prepper here. This is part of the Jonesy series. A gentleman asked me to explain more about the different types of the mushrooms. Now, this one here is a mushroom. It's called a book, Mushroom Without Fear. And what I'm going to start here, it's just easier to show you the pictures and explain it to you. Gills is a no-no. It's basically a poisonous mushroom. And what gills have is a set pattern with it. Even if it seems off center, it has a set pattern with it. This here shows you the picture of the gills right here, and then you can see the overall outline. It is a set overall pattern, a smooth set pattern. Even when the mushrooms are damaged, here you can still see the overall set pattern in it for gills. If you are not certain about a mushroom, do not pick it. Many poisonous mushrooms can have severely side effects to it. Take a picture of it. Take some disposable gloves with you or a pair of gloves with you to pick this mushroom. If you want to use it for identification, make sure you have it separate from the other mushrooms. Do not mix the mushrooms together in mushrooms that you do not know about and you want to identify in a separate way. There is different types of style of mushrooms here. This here is a gill mushroom right here. And here's another one with the gills. You can see the smooth, the even set, smooth patterns here. This one here shows a little better. Even with what you think is different, if you notice here, the patterns are all same. They're all equal and they're all the same. So that is what you're looking at with gill mushrooms. Now, the first most important step, it says you must be sure that you're able to identify gills. If you're not certain about it, like I said, do not pick it. I pick mushrooms for identifications. I take pictures of them. Often I will leave them right there where they're at. I'm very careful about touching them. I'll take something down and tilt it over. You can have an adverse effect from it, a side effect. You can get very sick from it, and it can also be very deadly on some of the poison mushrooms. So now, caps of gill mushrooms come in many different shapes. That's what it's saying, the caps. That is the top part of it. It could be rounded, it could come up, it could be flat, it could be knotted, it could be dark, it could be light, it could be thin, it could be big, it could be small, whatever. It is a variety of them. Gills have precise forms and come in many colors, it says. Some of them are brittle, some of them are soft. They can be rubbed off or separated from the underside of the cap quite easily. Gills are always attached to the stem or to the cap in a uniform way. So you always look and see in a uniform way. This mushroom book here is on page 18. Get this mushroom book and use this here as a guide. You can see right here. I'm still learning about mushrooms. I have a mushroom group I go to on Facebook and ask them to identify for me to make certain on some of them if I am right about it or if I'm not. Sometimes I don't even get an answer because they don't even know what it is. So now, in their regular ways, gills differ in spaces and formations. Now, here is some better pictures here for this here. Look here. You see the formations here. This here can be deceiving because you would think this here is ridges, but it's not. Look at that. That is a smooth formation. Here is another one. It is a set formation. Same right here on this one here. You can see the formations. It may look a little curvy, but if you're looking at it, it is still same here as this one here. A set formation, and then it's showing you right here in the very bottom right here is gills are always uniform attached to the cap or to the stem. They start radiating from the same height along the stem or the same line along the cap. They don't change. They don't get smaller. They don't get wider. They go up in a uniform manner for gills. So you've got to be careful. Number 2 rule, simple is, only take mushrooms with tubes, spines, and ridges, and the maverick portrayal in this book. Now, tubes is, I kind of look at them when I see them. It's like a bunch of little tentacles. Tons of little tentacles that you will see. And this here, if you cut the mushroom, slice it, you will see this tube-like form right here. This is your tube-like mushroom right here. This is the tube form. It kind of looks kind of like a science fiction thing, if you know what I mean. Now, ridges are not uniform. Even though I come across mushrooms, I have to double check. Another thing is do a spore check on them. You do a spore sample on it, and you can check with the coloration of the spore. I went and picked honey mushrooms, and there was white. It was a white spore. I also come across where the spore had went on another mushrooms, and when I picked it, there were spores all the way around on the ground. So I knew that was honey mushrooms in that situation. Ridges are not even. Here, you can see here. You can look at this here. See how it is? This here, you're coming up, and then you got right there. There is no uniform line in ridge mushrooms. Now, another 2 rules on this here is that never take a mushroom gills. Again, I want to show you, this here's a slug crawler. See how uniform that is? That is your gills. They are uniform. This is your ridges. They are not uniform. They twist and everything. This here, again, is your gills. If you want to take mushrooms to be identified, please be careful and use gloves or something other if you're learning about mushrooms, or just take a picture of it, tilt it over somewhere with a stick or something, and don't touch it if you're not certain. Or again, if you do collect it, please put it in a separate container or a separate bag so you do not contaminate the other mushrooms. Because if you're growing mushrooms for yourself or taking them home to eat, you are endangering yourself with the contamination from the other mushroom on it. Now, the tubes here is like a sponge in a way. So this in here is showing you pictures of the tubes right here. And you can see it right there. It looks like kind of like a sponge right there. And right there. Now I collected some false turkey tail. And the sponge part in them was small. So I knew there was false turkey tail to the real turkey tail, mushroom, compared to the false turkey tail. The false turkey tail, the spores of the tubes is much wider and larger. Now the spines is this right here. This here is your spines here. So either way, even when you cut up in half and you slice, you are going to see this here. So you know good and well this here is the spines. Now, this is the underside of the cap with tubes. Tubes are fine and tightly packed, and the opening at the end, which are seen here, are called pores. Just like a bunch of little pores all over your place. So tubes can be removed easily from the cap. Pores form a regular pattern resembling a sponge. And this cross section shows the tubes and the pores right here. Right here it shows it right here. The tubes and the pores. Get this book and it'll help you in a beginner situation. Now spines hang like stalactites from the cap. So that would not be hard to figure out. This here again is pictures of ridges. You can see the irregular pattern of the ridges is not smooth like the gills are. Now I'm still learning and I still ask a lot of questions. I come across things I'm not certain on. I pull my books out. I go to the websites. I go to the library if I need to. And look here. Now this is showing you the side of it of the ridges. You can see the difference there. It's not uniform. Now the ridges are part of the stem. There is no distinct pattern in the way you grow out of the stem. Some ridges begin further up, some further down the stem. There is no regularity to it. Now, this here, I want to explain to you about how to pick mushrooms on it. This is in 9 out of 10 cases, you can see whether a mushroom has gills or not without even touching it. Look at under the cap by kneeling down provides good exercise. In my case, no. My knees are shot. I got one fake knee, another one needs to be fixed. So I have to be super careful when I'm doing things when I am bending down and examining. So that is something here. Now what they have here is a stick here that's made. They made this here is made up to go underneath there and tilt it and look it up or pick it and lift it up and to collect the mushroom. So now if you can't see what's really underneath, it tells about breaking it off. I have broke them off to look at them to see what they are. Now, it recommends you use surgical gloves or paper napkins to dispose later, as I said. So here is the basic rules. Rule number 1, never take a mushroom with gills. Of course not. Rule number 2, only take mushrooms with 2 spines and ridges and the maverick betrayal in this book, it says. Okay, this means thoroughly understanding the information. You got to thoroughly understand everything before you attempt it if you're not certain about it. Number 3, only eat mushrooms which you have clearly identified all the positive ID marks. If you're looking for a certain type of mushroom or you're learning about mushrooms, make sure each one of them separate, take it home and do a spore sample, and then find out more about it by learning how to identify it. You want to create you a little scrapbook or whatever and take some pictures, whatever you want to do to save these samples here as a guideline to go by if you want to do that. Now, if a mushroom smells rotten, it is rotten, and if it feels soggy, it is soggy. When I harvest mushrooms, I want throwing a lot of mushrooms away. If it's too soggy or rotten, it's not going to be a good mushroom. You might as well get rid of it. Now, only take mushrooms which are in mint condition. That is, the flesh is firm, and there are hardly any worms. I have kept some with a few worms at it, got them out. I usually like to, some mushrooms you have to dehydrate right off the bat. Some you can kind of let them set out. I've got some Riley mushrooms set now. I go through it. I cut off the parts I need to cut off. I have opened them up and be loaded with worms, and I would discard that part and I would kill the grubs in it because I don't want the grubs in my yard. Same way as I kill any of the other bugs, that is among the mushrooms. I go ahead and destroy them. And then I throw my mushrooms off into the yard and let the animals eat them. And hopefully maybe some of the spores that's left maybe might germinate and maybe grow in my yard next year. I don't know. So then it says, rule number 5, never eat wild mushrooms raw. Some people talk about eating them raw. Do not eat them raw. Mushrooms have chemicals in them. They are a fungus. Even if you're thinking you're putting your tongue to it, just lick it up. Don't do any of that stuff. It needs to be cooked or made into a tea or whatever. I use Riley mushrooms for a tea. I use my turkey tail mushrooms for a tea. You can eat the turkey tail mushrooms, but I use it for a tea for health benefits and because I actually like it. But if you're allergic to mushrooms, you could probably have one mushroom, but not another mushroom. If you are growing your mushrooms, make certain your trays are taken care of and cleaned up and rinsed off. And what I do is I have on my dehydrator some old screen wire that I bought, a roll, and I cut it and I set it on my tray. So that way it keeps separate. None of it falls down into the other section. So I could easily, have 2 or 3 trays of mushrooms or whatever. But never eat it raw. Make sure they're cooked. Make sure if you're making tea with it, make sure you make tea with it. And then rule number 6, look before you cut. Always cut mushrooms. Do not pull them out. You don't chop down an apple tree to pick the apples. Cut just above the ground and cover the remaining stem with a little mud or dry leaves. Basically what that's saying is whether this is any conventional value is disputed, but it does no harm. My recommendation is to cut and cover. So what they're saying is there's a good chance that will come back. If it's mushrooms that grows on the side of the tree, I will cut around the edge. I will cut so much and I will leave it in place. And I always try to leave a few mushrooms behind. so it can germinate. Like I said, the ones I picked was severely germinated. It was really well, and there was other mushrooms there. It says picked mushrooms want to breathe. Do not suffocate them in plastic bags. Use a wicker or a ration basket or a linen bag. If possible, use a proper mushroom knife with an integrated brush for cleaning. So what it's basically telling you is take and clean some of the dirt off before you harvest it. Now, I do sometimes use the bags that I have a tote bag that I carry. I will put some in the bag sometimes, but I don't leave them in the bag very long if I know I'm going right home. I do have a linen bag I put in there to use for that purpose to help harvest it. What I do is when I'm out, sometimes I'm harvesting other plants as well as my mushrooms. So I do not want none of that to cross-contaminate with it. I don't like I'm not going to leave it in very long. If I'm going to harvest like that, I'm going to immediately take it home and take it out of the bag because you do not want to suffocate the mushrooms. You do not want the leaves and stuff to sweat in there. You want to get them out and get them to the air and start cleaning them up and getting them dry immediately. So it it also as the first cleaning of the mushroom should be done in woods. The brush is very useful. However, any knife would do as long as the blade can be folded into the knife handle for safety. Common sense is your best advisor, but be aware of any likelihood of tricks where you go. Now this in here is the type of knife right here with the brush on one end and the knife. So this video turned out a little bit longer. And then, of course, it says mushrooms want to breathe. Do not suffocate them in a plastic bag. It's number 7. Number 8, if in doubt, leave it. Again, check this mushroom book out here. I hope this answers some questions. Get this book, it'll help. It's a lot to think about. If you do use plastic bags, please be careful when you're using them. If you're planning on being out there for long periods of time, make sure you get other baskets to take. Do not mix the mushrooms together. If you are just getting samples out, make certain they are put in separate layers, however you choose to do it. It's a lot to think about. Keep them separated for mushrooms that you are not certain about and you're getting identified. If you're going out there to harvest, a lot of mushroom hunters are going out there for one particular mushroom that day. If that's what they're harvesting, they're harvesting. They don't want to cross-contaminate it. If you're going to do it, take you a couple 5-gallon buckets, take you different baskets, whatever, but keep it separate. And the same way for identifying the mushrooms. If you do put them in plastic bags, do not leave them in there for long periods of time. Take them home immediately and clean them and air them out. So this is part of Joan C's series. Hope I answered some questions. Live Prepper here. Say being safe, be happy. Bless you all.